Check, 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 check. Check, 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 check.
Hello.
Hey.
1 second. Hello, can you hear me now?
Oh yeah, all good, perfect.
All right, cool.
So, and this just automatically records, right?
Yeah, so you have to like start the recording. I think it says at the bottom of the screen.
Yeah, we're live. It says we're live.
Yeah. So once we're live, so you unfortunately cannot stop and start. But you as soon as you stop it, like the thing will end.
Cool. And then what, it gives you the option to like download it, or?
Yeah. So it usually takes like an hour or two for it to show up on your YouTube channel. But yeah, then you can download it from there.
Oh, cool. It shows up on you. Yeah, right. Yes, I have a YouTube channel. It auto links, doesn't it? So
yeah, it auto links. It'll automatically be private, so no one else will see it. So
okay, good.
The what else was I going to say? Yeah, so the nice thing is if you can, I've done this before. You can stop the live and then you can keep talking. It just won't be recording anymore. So
okay, cool. That's good.
Yeah.
Okay, let's pop Laura the invite. How clever.
Yeah, it's pretty good in the end. Tired, are we?
Yeah, I don't have any real excuse. I was out in the sun a bit earlier, so I think I'm just...
Yeah, I was out last night, so I'm a little bit...
Oh yeah, what did you get up to?
Just went to like a rooftop bar and drank cocktails.
Oh, nice. Very civilized.
Yeah, it was. It got uncivilized pretty quickly.
I should hope so. I'd expect nothing less.
So you're not getting any feedback or anything, right?
Sounds great. No.
Yep, same on your end. Yay.
Oh yeah, cool. Yeah, I see on my YouTube channel it says streaming live. So one day we could even do one of these for people to listen in.
No, we could actually.
Yeah.
One day. I used to do live ones, but I remember like we used to script everything out pretty tightly so it wouldn't get off track. This is kind of nice because sometimes our off-track stuff is really interesting. So.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. Laura says she can't seem to join. Let me try inviting her from the Hangout.
Hello.
Hey.
Hello.
Hooray! This is working.
Fantastic. Welcome.
Magic.
How you doing?
I'm all right. How are you?
Yeah, really good, thanks.
Sorry about the delay. My week has just been an absolute nightmare this week trying to get ready for E3.
Oh, don't worry about it. It totally worked out, so.
Yeah, we totally understand. No problem. It was. I'm just at home, so no skin off my nose.
That's all right then.
Yeah. So thanks for joining us at last. I mean, I know it says we're live, but obviously we'll just do a bit of preamble, tell you a bit about how it's going to kind of run down, and then when we're all kind of ready, we'll get started. But,
no problem. Sounds good.
Yeah, good to have you involved at last. And here, please introduce you to Yashoda.
Hello.
Hello.
Sitting over in New York.
Yeah. Causing time problems every week, but that's all right.
That's all right. I'm no stranger to the world of time confusion over podcasting.
Multiple podcasts. Where are you based?
Yeah, you're doing like 8 different podcasts, huh?
I think I'm currently on 9 a week, plus whatever
Oh my
ones
God.
people ask me to guest on.
Bloody hell.
Well, we're definitely going to talk about that. So.
Yeah, it's going to get pretty meta, podcasting about podcasting. Cool. Actually, I'm just going to very quickly grab a glass of water because I'm sitting in the conservatory and it's sweltering. We'll be right back. Okay, cool. So, yeah, I can't remember if I told you in the email kind of how things go.
He gave me sort of a very brief overview, but nothing too specific.
Cool. It's pretty straightforward. Basically, we'll kick off just what we'll do is record separately like a little news digest, just running down the kind of most pertinent news of the past 2 weeks. Yashoda and I were chatting earlier, and basically then what happens is we'll go kind of in depth and just everybody like chime in with their opinion for just a few minutes on one particular item, and then after that the idea is basically not interview you, but just kind of talk a bit about what you've got going on, a few things, and then usually like issues just arise and we just kind of run with it and talk from there.
No problem. Sounds good to me.
But
yeah, if you have any pet passion topic of the week, we're always happy to dive into that because those often start really good conversations.
Yeah.
I will have a think then.
All right.
And let us know what you think of this, because Yashoda and I we were talking about the Hellblade press release, which I guess you saw, about how it's going to deal with like psychosis and PTSD and stuff.
Yes.
And then Yashoda made a very good point about what was the lady's name that was
Eve Ensler. She's feminist activist for the last 30-40 years, and they had her consult on the new Mad Max movie.
Hmm.
So
sorry, we'll talk about that.
Yeah, we thought they kind of went quite well together as like a topic to just discuss. I mean, they're both pretty topical and it's a really interesting thing. So if you're cool, maybe just like pick that as our main thing to just discuss for 3 or 4 minutes.
I am fine with whatever we want to talk about.
Cool. Nice and easy. Okay, Yashoda and I haven't done it this way before, where we pre-record the news, so I'm just getting my head around it. I guess we can just jump straight in. What we'll do is, we'll just go as though we've been talking a bit already. Ask you to introduce yourself, and then we'll go into the Hellblade Mad Max thing, and we'll just roll from there.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, I'll give a few seconds gap, and then I'll kick things off. Okay, cool. So, the wonderful guest that we have on the show this week is someone that I'm really delighted to have on. Has far more experience doing these things than probably Yashoda and I put together, and I've been trying to get on for a little while. It's Laura Kate. So.
Hello! Woo! Thank you for having me on. I do far too many of these podcasty things. Why not do another? Yeah.
Exactly. Absolute pleasure. So probably anyone listening to this is going to be more familiar with you than they are Yashoda and I. But for anybody, in some kind of distant, like tiny outpost of civilization that doesn't know your work, you want to just give a quick introduction to yourself?
Okay, my name's Laura. I am a freelance critic that writes about video games. I am UK editor at Destructoid.com. I do about 9 podcasts a week that are all funded through Patreon. So I do the Indie Haven podcast, The Geek Night In, Oh No Video Games category, Video Games, The Geek Night In, Laura's Gaming Butts, Podtoid, Destructoid UK podcast, Year of Steam, Podquisition, which is probably the big one that everyone knows because it's got Jim Sterling in it. Yeah, I do that, and I do a load of freelancing. I do a load of video gaming stuff everywhere, so...
Do you think you're doing enough podcasts?
Yeah. I do enough podcasts now that I have to stop when I list them and think, did I list all of them or have I missed some? Because I do a few too many.
It's quite a collection. It's really amazing, actually.
It's fantastic.
We'll definitely ask you a bit more about all of them in a bit. But first, we mentioned earlier the Hellblade press release that went around. Hellblade is a game I've been looking forward to since it was announced. I'm a massive Ninja Theory fan, and And of course, it actually has some interesting parallels to Mad Max. And you showed it. What was it you were saying?
The thing with Mad Max Fury Road, which is just a fantastic, fantastic movie, one of the things that people really like to talk about is the portrayal of the wives in the story and how it's kind of empowering and focusing on them as saviors of their own lives and very, very respectful of their story and not very exploitative. And one of the reasons I think is George Miller actually hired Eve Ensler to consult on the movie because she does a lot of work. She's famous for writing the Vagina Monologues, which is very popular in the 90s, though it comes off pretty dated if you see it today. But since she wrote that, though, she's been very active in working with survivors of rape and domestic violence. So she has a lot of experience working with these women and really helped them to craft the story in a way that was respectful and interesting, in a way that still drove the story forward.
Yeah, and I think it's so important, and massive credit to the film and everyone involved that she was brought on board. I'm guessing you've seen it, by the way, Laura. Sorry if you haven't. Huge spoilers.
No. Yeah, I have. It's interesting because I'm always cautious when I hear that someone wants to make a story that's about like psychosis and things like that, and it's a really reassuring name to have attached to the project. Just like Mad Max Fury Road, I thought was a fantastic film just in terms of its primary character is someone who's in any other film would have been any other film would have shown the abuse that she went through that led to where she came to, and it's no, we'll imply that it happened, we'll allude to it. There's no need to show you it. It's this is a character who went through all these things. She's saving a load of other people from having to go through what she went through.
Yeah.
And the whole time, all of those characters still manage to maintain a sense of strength and dignity and all of these traits that are very rare to see in that kind of story. And I think that's why it's resonated so well with people. So yeah, really good to see that name's also attached to this other thing. That's really good.
It's interesting though with Mad Max. I don't know if you guys are as aware of this or have seen this as much in the UK, but here in the US, it's also led to a bit of a meltdown by the men's rights activists. And
oh my god!
I think the very fact
action films.
It's been hilarious. Why can't we have action films like they used to with no women characters? What's wrong with the men using wives for sex? I'm just head desk.
I just find it both bewildering and hilarious. It's a really bad joke that's come true that there are even men's rights activists. I mean, how did that happen?
My favourite thing about this whole thing with men's rights activists getting upset about Mad Max was you see a lot of them that complain. It's well, why aren't you complaining because this female character in the film is this stereotype and this one's this stereotype. Why aren't you complaining? And it's the reason why we're not complaining is you've given us a fully rounded cast of female characters, so no one female character has to sum up your opinion on all women.
Exactly.
If you give us more than one woman, then they can be stereotypes because you have different stereotypes, and it's this is different women who are different facets of womanhood, and not just this is the one woman who is all women.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty essential, right, in every game and every film to have archetypal or stereotypical characters. What's important is that they then go on, become more nuanced and put a twist or break out of those stereotypes. So, but what did you both think about the wives themselves? I mean, Furiosa is obviously an incredible character, and I loved Charlize Theron before, but I fell doubly in love with her afterwards. But I was discussing this actually with my girlfriend after we saw it. Obviously, she's incredibly well portrayed, but the wives, even though they do take on a strength and a dignity and reclaim some of that independence, there's still a bit of male gaze going on in terms of what they're wearing and Rosie Huntington-Whiteley's kind of.
Yeah, but it's very much contextualized within the narrative. The narrative is very much built around this is a character who, because of the power he has, is able to sexualize these characters. As soon as they're out from under his thumb, it's very much hey, this is someone who has shown us, hey, we can break out of this. And I think for me, what's interesting, like these characters are not unwavering. Like you have scenes where like the wives will turn around, and at least one of them will turn around and be like, right, let's run back to him. He'll forgive us. It'll be fine. And
well, they're kind of wavering.
Yeah.
Everybody's wavering pretty much the whole time, really.
Indeed.
I mean, they literally waver one way for half the film and then waver all the way back.
Yeah, but it's like, while their resolve isn't unwavering, they do sort of waver in their resolve, there's always like a sense of bravery and sort of this like stoic confidence, and like if one of them is wavering, the rest of that group is there to be like, no, it's okay, keep your determination on this point. And like they work so well as a group of characters. I think they're just the interplay between them at any one time really always gets a good balance.
Oh yeah, it was fantastic. It reminded me almost of the novel of the Virgin Suicides, because there's this commentary, you know, these four girls are completely unknowable, but they're absolutely the ones driving the story, and you're hearing, like, they're almost like these godlike figures, which I think I know the scene you're talking about, Danny, when Mad Max first comes across them in the desert and they're bathing. But yeah, I was thinking about that scene, and I was like, if they're being enslaved, they're hardly likely to be clothed in kind of modest dress, because they exist basically to be, you know,
this is the clothing that they escaped from slavery, and this is very much the, well, we don't really have time to stop and get some extra layers to cover us.
It's true, and it's a far cry from the did either or both of you see the Star Trek film? I think it was the first one that I'm thinking of. Have you seen the first one?
Yeah.
Oh, it's the second one I think you're thinking of.
With
Eve?
Is it her name?
Alice Eve.
Oh God!
Yeah.
Sorry,
that bit where she's like, no peeking, and then it's just like
for no reason undressing.
And she's just there like power stance, hands on hips, and her wonder bra, like from a low-angled shot, and I'm just like, my jaw was just hanging open, and not in the chauvinistic way, but just like the audacity that they could even include that shot.
I think for me the thing that makes these characters work so well is that you have like the titular character, Max, has to be saved by them and then shows them an awful lot of respect repeatedly. Like there is a fantastic like photo set that I saw that was like all captioned photos someone had put on Tumblr, where it was basically all the times in the film where Max is like, I want to do this thing, but I'm going to defer to your judgment because you know better than I. It's like, I think like the scene, the moment that for me was like, this is, that this character really respects this group of women, is the moment when he's going to try and take the shots at this car that's coming towards them, and he can't make the shot, and he lets Furiosa use him as a gun rest, because it's like, you're the better shot, I'm going to stop trying to do this, you deal with it.
That bit was that was an amazing scene.
It's like that every moment that there is that like is open to overt sexualization of those characters is balanced with like, here is the title character stepping back, showing a lot of respect to the group of female characters and saying, no, you're better than me, you deal with this and I'll help if I can.
He absolutely becomes a sub.
Yeah.
That's great.
That's the entire film is him being like a hood ornament, and then like, he starts the film as a hood ornament and spends the rest of the film being like, I'll do this if that's okay. Is that okay? Okay, that's okay. That's fine then I'll do it if you think it's the right thing to do. And I'm like, oh baby.
And then he just slinks off at the end because he's done his bit. He helped out in any way he could, and he left.
And then he's like,
it wasn't his journey to be the hero, and it's like, well, you know.
Yeah.
They were the real heroes. I'll let them take the credit. Off I go.
I think I was wondering before the film, you know, could Tom Hardy become any more lovable and, you know, make any more women's around the world's ovaries explode? And I came out of that film with a pretty surefire answer, I have to say. I mean, even I've got a man crush on the guy. Have you?
Well, he's devastatingly handsome.
Yeah, he's just brilliant, and I just love the fact that he came from, he's had a kind of rags to riches story as well.
Well, it's incredible in what's the one, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. I mean, there's so many incredible actors in that one, and he has such a small role, and he still kind of steals the show.
He steals everything. Have you seen Child 44? Either of you?
Not yet, no.
Apart from a slightly torturous Russian accent, he's incredible in it. Really good. But at the risk of this becoming the Tom Hardy appreciation cast, which I wouldn't mind doing.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Laura, that could be your 10th podcast.
Yeah, that could be an entire show.
Yeah.
Oh God, don't tempt me. I would do it.
I'll be there as a regular guest, definitely. But I've just invited myself. But it's very interesting. Speaking of Ninja Theory, have you guys played Enslaved? Odyssey to the West.
Yeah.
No, I haven't.
Because I think, first of all, you should definitely track it down. It's like a massive hidden gem.
Mm-hmm.
I think the relationship between Furiosa and Mad Max is, in a way, very similar to Trip and Monkey. For anybody that hasn't played the game, Yashodi, yourself included, basically, the premise of the story is your player character has this kind of mind control band placed on him. He's like this big, muscular guy, and he has this mind control band placed on him by also like an escapee from this slave ship, this girl called Trip, and she's basically using you as protection to try and get back to her village. And obviously over the course of the game, Monkey kind of develops a begrudging respect for her, and there's a bit of sexual tension, but more than anything they become friends, and again he like learns to basically defer to her judgment, and that was the first game where I realized how special Ninja Theory were, I think, and it's why I'm now so excited for Hellblade.
Yeah, Ninja Theory, they attempt to make strong female characters, but they fall into a lot of the show don't tell. There are a lot of things where they could just tell you something about a character, and they're like, no, because it's a female character, we have to show you that they're strong because this happened.
Yeah,
and, there's a few of those.
Both Trip and Nariko do ostensibly wear rags.
Yeah. Well, the one that bothered me most, I think this is a Ninja Theory one. Ninja Theory did Metroid Other M, didn't they?
Oh yeah, good point.
Yeah, and that is my example for why I'm always a bit iffy about Ninja Theory when it comes to female characters, because they took Samus Aran, who is one of the strongest, most stoic female characters I know, and basically boiled her character down to, I'm not going to use these abilities in my suit because that man told me not to, and I'm burning alive in lava, but he told me not to, and I kind of love him, and I have a weird daddy complex about him. I have some problems with Ninja Theory and women sometimes.
Fair enough. I'm not saying they're unimpeachable by any means. I do think that Trip and Narika are a lot more fleshed out than. Yeah,
I see the comparison points that you're making to Mad Max, and I think that there's definitely some valid comparisons there. But don't go into Enslaved thinking it's going to be as good as Mad Max in that regard. No.
I'm certainly not advocating that, but. Like the Alex Garland script and Nitin Sawhney doing the music, it's definitely a hidden gem. And of course with them and Andy Serkis, I've always thought they do a really good job of making cinematic games that are also games. But yeah, I'm really excited for Hellblade. I think they're making all the kind of right sounds and moves by getting these such experienced consultants on board to help with the portrayal, and I'm sure the action will be amazing. So.
That sounds great.
Yeah, fingers crossed. So, I've been curious for a while, Laura. Exactly, I'm always interested in, what's someone's story. Like, how did you make the jump into kind of having such a successful Patreon? Last time I checked, you're on like $1,500 a month or something.
Yeah.
And how did you find yourself doing all of these podcasts?
Okay, so my career is a really weird collage of niche things that shouldn't have been viable as a career, but when you put them all together, somehow it worked. So basically, about 3 years ago, I started working in retail. I had 0 qualifications. I'd come out of school failing my exams, nothing to do, and sat on the till. I started writing about video games purely as a way to just keep myself from getting bored on the tills. I would sit and just sort of I had a little notebook and I'd make ideas of articles, and I got into unpaid writing through a website called MCM Buzz, which is connected to a big UK convention called the MCM Expo. Yeah. That helped me set up a lot of my sort of connections within the industry, and I lucked into that free website, ended up setting up a print magazine, which was then able to offer me paid work, and I used that to get into freelancing. And it was all a bit of a like, I never thought this was going to be a viable career. I had several different projects I did on a weekly basis that like a couple of hundred people enjoyed each project. Like I had a few podcasts going on and a few like weekly things, and I had a website about indie games that like a few hundred people were reading. And basically I lost my retail job very unexpectedly, and very lucky timing. Around this time, like I'd managed to do a couple of bits of work with Jim Sterling in the past, and he was setting up his podcast, The Podquisition, and he invited me to be on it.
Great.
And all of the timings just kind of luckily worked out.
Well,
like,
you make your own luck. Luck is preparation,
yeah, but,
opportunity.
Yes, but there was equally a big sprinkling of luck here in the timing, that it was like, in terms of when I lost my job, I thought I've got a couple of months savings set aside. Let's make a push for this as a full-time career. If it works out within a month, then that's great. If it doesn't, I've got time to find a new retail job. And the stars just kind of aligned at the right time, that a lot of people suddenly found out who I was through Jim Sterling, and a lot of the projects that I'd been doing unpaid for a few years, when I said like I'm going to have to either stop these or make some money out of it, those people who enjoyed those projects were willing to back me on Patreon, and
amazing.
It just kind of all came together at the same time. And then shortly afterwards I ended up getting an editorial position offered that worked alongside my Patreon, and a lot of seeds just came together at once. I think
That's fabulous.
Yeah,
You're a true child of the slash generation, as I call it. Editor / podcaster / retail analyst / but
it is very weird. Like my career is this thing of like, here is a lot of podcasts that have very small but passionate listener bases, and here is like one of the things I do is a podcast about butts. Like I have a lot of very small niche things that the people who like them seem to like them a lot and be willing to put money in. So
and it's amazing, I think, and we've discussed Patreon in detail and plenty in previous podcasts and stuff. But exactly, yeah. And again, like anything, it's not perfect, but I love that it can enable people like you, Laura, to do these things, to have these really highly engaged but incredibly niche audiences, but that combined actually works out to make a living for you. And that is one of the great things about the kind of the platforms and stuff that we have on offer. I mean, not to go too into detail on it, but thinking slightly more into the long term, like what does your future look like, do you think? Is Patreon going to be a huge part of it? Is there anything that you'd like to focus more time on, or try anything else?
My future is it's a bit of a roller coaster right now, that I'm looking at the next turn in the roller coaster rather than the whole ride at the moment.
That's a good philosophy, but let's hope you're not an Alton Towers roller coaster.
Oh God, let's hope not. But yeah, like at the moment, my focus is keeping up with what I'm doing right now. Like the Patreon's still slowly growing. It's not like showing any signs of dipping yet, so
good.
Whatever I'm doing there, the audience seems to still be enjoying and to still want to support. And for the meanwhile, as such, I want to keep that going, because that's some stability. The stuff I'm doing as UK editor for Destructoid's also working out well for me. I'm able to build a little bit of a team there, and that's building experience that down the line might mean that, like, I'd love to maybe one day be in like a full-time staff position at like an IGN or somewhere like that, like an office position.
IGN, are you listening?
I know, it's the one that I've not cracked yet. I've still not got freelance stuff on there, but like I'd love to do something like that one day, and I think being a UK editor at Destructoid's definitely helping with that.
Of course, yeah.
And then otherwise, I'm laying all sorts of other projects on at the moment. Like I've just started. I'm Polygon's first freelance reviewer, so I've got my first couple of reviews going there, and hoping that's going to work out. And I'm just like, I'm embarking on a lot of projects at the moment, and this is going to be a year of sowing a lot of seeds and seeing which ones pan out, I think.
That's exciting. Well, I'm sure the rains will come and everything will fertilize wonderfully.
Hooray for euphemisms! And
I'm a big fan of the gardening euphemism. I have to be said. Get my green thumb out at any opportunity. That is a euphemism, of course. No, not a euphemism, a metaphor.
Metaphor, that's the word I was looking for.
Definitely
I was
not
like,
a euphemism.
I knew euphemism wasn't the right word, but I was like, I'm going to roll with it. It's fine. No one's picked me up on it.
I wasn't trying to correct you. I just suddenly, had a weird vision of a green thumb and what that might mean sexually, but I don't want to even think about it.
That's unfortunately where my mind went as well, Danny. So
retract your mind.
Yeah.
Take it back out of the garden. So one thing again that you, Shoda, and I were discussing, it'd be really great to hear what both of you think about this, is the recent rock band Polygon furore, especially now as you're writing for them. Well, I don't know, maybe your lips are sealed now, but you, Shoda, you felt
my position of. So yeah, go on.
Well, I mean, we can generalize the topic a little more, maybe, because I think that's really what people are getting pissed off about, is like, should the idea of someone who's sent to report on something who doesn't already love that. And this is something that I find has already happened in film criticism. They've pretty much chased out anyone who's not an unabashed fanboy, and they pretty much, you see fans rejecting reviews, for instance, of Marvel films. This was a big problem with the last Avengers movie, about all the criticism of Black Widow and how she was portrayed. A lot of people would actually write off those reviews. They're like, oh, you're not a real fan, so therefore you can't have an opinion on this topic.
So my perspective on this, being very careful because I do work for Polygon, I am hugely respectful of. It was Chris Plant, was it?
Yeah, I think.
Sorry,
so.
I just want to check.
Yeah.
I just want to double check before I go any further. You're right to edit around while I look quickly.
I mean, yeah, it's definitely the general issue. It's not that I wanted to push so much for like your kind of official statement. It's more the, to what end or to what extent do journalists kind of owe that level of appreciation for something if they're going to go to an event. I don't think it applies to review copies and things like that at all, but preview events and stuff like that, it's, I used to write for music websites and stuff, and you would often see clickbait happen where kind of editors would basically give albums to a writer they knew were going to hate it, so they would do a hatchet job, because that was often, it's an easy article, it generates a bit of buzz, and so for me the thing is like, well, yeah, it's a fine line, isn't it?
Sorry, just give me 1 second to finish loading this, because I think it's important
Yeah, we want to get our facts straight.
to contextualize. Sorry, it was Colin.
Oh, you're breaking up a bit, Laura.
Yeah, I'll get myself right before I. Sorry, did I go for a second there?
I think so,
You
but
did.
it's fine. I'll edit it out.
Yeah, Chrome decided to go on. Anyway, let's try it again. So I'm a big fan of Colin Campbell's work. I think that over the years he's done some fantastic criticism, and in general I have a lot of respect for him. That being said, my personal perspective on this single piece of work was that I found it very painful to read. You look at the address bar for that, and it is labeled in the address bar as Rock Band 4 preview, and you cannot describe what he wrote as a preview. I'm going to be honest.
That's very fair. That is very fair.
The URL specifically says preview, and this does not preview that game. I appreciate that working in the games industry is a lot more work than people give it attribute to it, and it's not all fun and rainbows all the time. It is a lot of hard work, and I can understand that disillusionment creeping in. The problem is that it's a highly competitive field, and it's really frustrating, particularly to writers who are further down the ladder, people who are at my level. It's really frustrating to get turned down from going to that event, not being considered big enough to go to that event.
Yeah.
When you're a fan of that series and have things that you want to say, and I would have done that as a freelancer. I'd have happily gone and I'd have been like, right, I'm a fan of this series. I can give a preview of it. And when it's labeled as a preview, it can be irritating to see someone with that level of disillusionment on the project. Now, I don't want to attribute too much of that to Colin Campbell. There is probably an amount of someone else up in editorial assigning him to it, and he's the writer that was there, and he was the only one who was free to be sent or something. There's all sorts of other factors that play in, but I don't think it was right to pick if the editors to if they wanted to publish this. I don't think it was right to publish it as a preview. I think that there were a lot of missteps and mishandlings in terms of this making it live. Being an editor myself, I personally would have looked at this and been really not happy with that writer, and for all we know, the editor wasn't happy with Colin Campbell. But I'll say I have a lot of respect for Colin Campbell as a writer, but I do think that this particular piece was a misstep that was very difficult to see from my perspective, because I'm still fighting to make a name for myself in this industry, and sort of that translate into what the reader sees was difficult.
Do you mind saying that last bit again? We're losing you.
Yeah, he went slightly robotic.
That's fine. Sorry. Seeing a writer is about to allow that to slip into their work as much as it did.
Something Chrome is not happy with you right now.
that sort of that. Let me try this one more time.
Hang on. Let's just take a second. Let's do a couple of...
Testing.
Seems... It kind of, I don't know, every couple of seconds it just cuts off.
Coming through. Sorry about this. I don't know what's going wrong.
It's quite an interesting effect, actually. It's like a sonic ping-pong.
Am I coming through any better?
Yeah.
Am I coming through any better?
Seems okay now, yeah. Third time lucky.
Give me 1 second. I will sort something.
There you go.
It seems okay now.
Oh, is this okay?
Yeah, seems good.
Okay, so it was just irritating that much.
Oh, no. It stopped working as soon as you started saying that. It's so weird.
Because the work, if you're writing for an is this? If you give me 1 sec.
Dear idea. You can still hear me, right?
Yeah, I can hear you really well.
Yeah, I think it must just have been... I just sent the link again. Good old Chrome.
I know. Yeah, the Hangouts thing is not the perfect solution.
Well, I mean, it's
just the best one we have right now.
It's fine. It's always been fine, hasn't it, for us? Just It's a quick internet snafu, but not a problem.
Not a problem at all.
Luckily, nobody is actually listening live.
Yeah, I know. And that's why we won't do live for a while.
Yeah. Yeah. Just sending another invite. How you doing for time?
Good. I might have to hop off in a second, but I want to talk about this.
Am I back? Am I back?
You are back.
So. Let's do a testing
okay.
For a few seconds.
Testing. Hopefully I'm not breaking up at all.
You're
that
not.
That was fine by me. You're going to go right and then...
Yeah, sorry about that. So no anyway, it's just irritating when you're trying to make a name for yourself in this industry, seeing a writer focus that much on themselves rather than on the reader. Because when you're writing for an outlet, your focus should be on, you're writing this for the reader as a service to them. It's a preview of the game for the reader to read. It's not for you to vent personal stuff. And that rubbed me up the wrong way. Again, I will preface this by saying I do think that Colin Campbell generally is a fantastic critic. I just think that this was a misstep.
of course,
Well,
you know,
what do you think though of the idea that, I mean, I feel like if you're not gonna write fawning previews of these products, you're not gonna get invited to these events. So I find it sort of refreshing that someone's actually willing to call out the game for what it is. And yes, you're right. The fact that he put so much of himself into it was slightly irritating. But at the same time, I was sort of I appreciated the fact he didn't feel he had to kowtow out the developer who obviously spent so much money and thought they deserved.
Here's the thing.
accolades for
Let's say this had been a review event.
Yeah.
Or no, actually, even this works as a preview. Let's say he had focused on the game and had been highly critical of the game. I'd have agreed with you. I'd have said, okay, it's refreshing to see someone be critical of the game regardless of these sort of very expensive settings that the PR is lashing on in order to try and sway opinion from the critics. Like, had he focused on the game and been critical of it, I'd have been all for that. But it's the amount of just like, I am here, I'm not even going to tell you what the game's like because I'm too busy discussing Filipino politics. I'm like, it's like, that's not a middle finger to the money the PR spent. That is a middle finger to your readers who came to this because the URL says preview and they want to find out about the game. Yeah.
I mean, I think we've got to forgive the guy because to some extent, you know, I totally understand the frustration with that kind of glitz and glamour side of things, and you know, I really hope and I don't believe that it's going to like negatively affect him in the long run. You know, I don't think anybody wants that. But yeah, I think perhaps what would have been better, and I've seen Polygon do this before actually, is kind of run your vanilla like preview or whatever, and then either at the same time or shortly afterwards do a separate like editorial or think piece about the wider issue, which would have been really interesting here because you know there's I
love that. I would love to see more of that. And you're right. Like this is like when you're doing music announcements. It's one thing to preview a little bit and say what it's gonna be, and then when you actually listen to it, you do want that honest analysis from the reviewer.
My perspective on this particular piece would have been completely different if it had been labeled opinion.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. My growing disdain for the PR PR cycle of video games.
Yeah, exactly.
If that had been how it had been pitched, is like, hey, even if they didn't bother with a preview, if they had labeled this opinion.
Yeah.
This is not about Rock Band 4. This is about PR practices in the games industry and how irritated they are making me and how much they're making me not care about games.
Exactly.
If that's how they'd have pitched it, then that text would have been fantastic and it would have been a really relevant discussion to have.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we didn't have that discussion because he labeled it preview and that kind of...
It's definitely a problem, more with the nomenclature and the kind of labeling. Yeah, for sure, than the actual content. Yeah, it's just kind of a mismatch. But, you know, that conversation about, like, PR practices and stuff, it is an important one. I know the industry's been having it for a while. It's always good to kind of keep it there at the back of your mind. I've worked in marketing and media and advertising in the past, and it's, you know, it's not just video games. Completely.
And especially because video game criticism has matured in an era when the companies are already very savvy about marketing. It's not like... You know, with literature and books, literature and movies, rather, there was a time when it wasn't all so polished and criticism grew up around that. And unfortunately for video games, I think it hurts the ability to actually critique things seriously when they are these highly expensive PR events with lots of nice food and drinks and and they distract you from the game and they are going to affect your take on it as a reviewer.
I think to some extent, though, obviously I don't want to talk for like every PR person out there, but I have worked with a lot, and I think to some extent it's unavoidable. You know, we get into a much deeper issue of in this modern era, like with social media. What is the value of dedicated PR agencies? It's not what I'm going to attempt to address, but it's like what it comes down to is you're a PR agency. You've been taken on by either a bigger agency or by your client. And you have a budget, and you have to spend that, you know, regardless of what you think people are going to think of the game. It essentially reflects on you, you know, to put on a good event and for it to look nice and to take care of the journalists. And probably, again, speaking generally, I think if you asked any PR out there, whether they're in games or music or media or whatever, they would say we want to demonstrate that we can put on a great event. We're not trying to influence anyone's opinion, other than of their perception of us as a PR agency, more than the product, you know. So, but it obviously is a big issue.
Yeah, indeed it is. It's one of those discussions that needs to be had more frequently. I just wish that they'd framed that's the conversation he wanted to have.
Yeah. Oh well, we forgive him. I think is the consensus, and and hopefully, like everything, it will kind of lead to better labeling and that kind of discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I think for me that I would even have been fine with that review, even if he'd said something up front. This game is exactly like every other Rock Band game. You know, some qualitative statement about the game itself to justify why he went off on a tangent.
Yeah, like I've considered doing that before. I got flown out to another country in Europe to see a not very good game once, and I genuinely considered, and I opted not to do it in the end, but I was very tempted to do. This game is a clone of this game and not a very good one at that. Yeah. Here is the rest of my 2,000 words is going to be me talking about the trip and reviewing the trip because I have very little to say about the game. Like if you're upfront with it like that, you can make it into something quite amusing, but that's not how this came across. It was like, oh, why do I have to be a games journalist?
Yeah, pretty much.
Which has its place in an opinion piece, but not in a preview.
No, you kind of got to check your privilege.
Again, remind you, I love you, Colin Campbell. Don't hate me and shout. I still want to work for Polygon.
we're all in it together, aren't we? So I'm sure nobody's like too worried about it. But like you say, it is hard work. It is a super competitive industry that's still growing, and it's almost like you showed it. Like you were saying, other industries have matured to the point where there's at least a bit more capacity to kind of take care of how many people want to work in it. It's still not ideal, but in video games, it's still, in a way, such a nascent industry, despite its popularity, that, the popularity is, I mean, the competitiveness is completely hyper through the roof. And actually, speaking of competitiveness and popularity. Competitiveness. One thing I wanted to ask you again about podcasts in general is, do you feel that we are in a bit of a podcast renaissance? So I'm not just talking about the 9 that you maintain, but things like Serial, Everywhere You Look, they're starting left, right, and center. I mean, hell, we started one.
I know.
Well, it's one of those things that I think a lot of people in a lot of areas of media right now, I think a lot of it was sparked by the popularity of YouTube for a lot of criticism industries, like built up a couple of different points where it's like, first of all, personality is hugely important to building up personal brands if you want to become a critic, and then B, it lowered the barrier to entry where anyone could be a critic, where it's like anyone can build up a personality, build a fan base, and have their opinion considered valid by that fan base.
Yeah.
And then I think where podcasting's really sort of grown in the shadow of YouTube, like having its renaissance, is that it's become very obvious to a lot of people that podcasting is a very quick and easy way to deliver personality as well as perspective. It takes very little effort to set up, to record, to edit, to put out there, and it's very easy for people to consume on the go. And it's very.
I find it hard as hell.
It depends on how you do it. You can streamline processes, but like compared to video as like a comparable
of course.
way of getting personality across, like podcasting has become very much like the de facto quick and easy way to produce personality-driven content.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it does for people. It gives anyone an opportunity to become that personality that can turn that audience into a critique career, I guess.
That's really interesting, and I think just, from the producer perspective, like what you're describing sounds to me like it's the new radio, right? It's a new iteration of radio. You have the same relationships you have with your morning radio DJs, and I think in the US at least, like the form factor, most people still consume by car. You know, I don't because I live in New York, but it's very convenient to put things on your phone and put them on in your car, listen to them on the subway, and just from a form factor level, I think it's just something that's so easy to use.
Yeah, it's definitely becoming like it's a thing where everyone has a device that can access that information, and wherever they are, you can listen to it when you've got a free couple of minutes. Yeah, it's a very easily digestible, easily accessible, and easily distributed form of like that sort of I guess that radio host and audience interaction that you used to have.
Except now you get choice. You're not limited to the three radio stations.
It's on demand niche radio stations.
I wonder how long it's going to be until we get a kind of successful version of Netflix for podcasts, because a podcast is essentially radio on demand. ROD. I'm going to coin that term. Instead of VOD. You heard it here. I'm coining ROD. It's ROD, and
it's ROD.
It's ROD, and it needs.
ROD sounds lame.
I personally doubt we'll ever see that, but what I think we'll see on a similar vein is I think we'll see more podcasting networks. That's the only one that jumps to mind for me at the moment. You've got the big for video games, you've got IGN's network of podcasts, which are used to drive traffic to IGN as a website.
Yeah.
You've got the Geekbox network, which encompasses things like the Geekbox, the Comedy Button, the Comics Conspiracy. That's they have their sort of umbrella, and a lot of what it is that you'll have one group of people will create an umbrella under which they'll have their okay, here is our however many podcasts we do under this this network. At which point it's usually used to either drive traffic to a website or to drive interest to a Patreon, because then it's well, if we have enough niche, essentially enough niche radio stations, we'll have enough collective fan base that we can monetize that into a I think we'll see a lot more Patreons for conglomerates of podcasts, but I don't think we'll see a service for it.
You're probably right, but I wonder if instead of Patreons, actually what we'll have is more of the the YouTube multi-channel network model, which the things you're talking about, the Geekbox and etc. are already doing. And I'm going to coin another phrase, MPN, multi-channel podcast network. I'm a mint. I'm just coining phrases left, right, and centre today. But yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, that's exactly how the YouTube multi-channel networks rose to popularity, is collating and aggregating a whole bunch of niches and then, effectively selling that aggregate to advertisers as a bulk thing. And you can bet your bottom dollar that podcasts are going to become much more commercialized very quickly by the likes of...
Oh God, we'll end up with a Sky TV of podcasts.
Oh yeah, but but even if there could be a middle ground, say SoundCloud decide to roll out a program where they select, a bit like the YouTube Select Spotlight. They spotlight 50 podcasts or whatever, and they just basically give them a revenue split of advertising or just around the page, banner ads or whatever. It's going to happen. It's only a matter of when. Mark my words.
It's true. I would predict that there will be more smaller media companies. I mean, I think the NPR is really led here in terms of not only creating the content but being able to publicize it on their existing properties. I think that's one of the reasons it's become so big here.
Yeah,
because they were cross-promoting the hell out of Serial on This American Life and other shows that they have.
Yeah. But yeah, and that's what things need, is proper cross-promotion, especially amongst niches. Okay, we're kind of coming up to the end of our time, so there are two things that I want to get in while we still have time.
Right.
First of all, what's everybody's very quick either E3 prediction or fantasy? Let's start with you, Laura.
I have my E3 fantasy is I want to see Beyond Good and Evil 2 announced. It's never going to happen, but I am holding out so much hope because someone has to hold out hope.
I'm down with that. I'm holding a candle up too, don't worry.
So, yeah, in solidarity, we shall hold candles to Beyond Good and Evil 2. Predictions. I've been predicting this for a while, and I've been predicting this. I've done it for a couple of years, but this is going to be the E3 where we see The Last Guardian come back. I'm making the prediction. there have been rumblings about this for a while. Most recently, Polygon was reporting on the fact that allegedly the PS4 system architect may be working on it. The Guardian's Keith Stewart did an E3 preview where he was sort of he said something to the effect of, we have it on good authority that it will be coming back this year. The writing seems to be on the wall, so I'm making the prediction we finally see The Last Guardian at E3 this year.
Yeah, it could happen. It could happen.
Mm-hmm. We'll see.
Yeah.
And make a really quick and cheap indie game about leading some cute animal around behind you, and capitalize on it before they release it.
How about you, Danny? What are you predicting or hoping for?
Well, I'm not going to steal your prediction, but I agree with it when we come to it.
Right.
My fantasy is just some kind of really good, tactical or Japanese RPG. Just some kind of RPG to sink our teeth into that isn't Final Fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a really personal fantasy. I don't know who would make it. I don't know what platform it would be on. A great Vita lineup would be cool as well. And my prediction is basically, a lot of book shots, a lot of fancy high-res screenshots for things. They're gonna drum up hype like crazy that aren't obviously gonna come out for years and years, and then me feeling terribly burned out by it all, and just go back to playing Destiny. How about you?
Well, there you go. My prediction is that there will be endless talk about virtual reality and how that's going to revolutionize gaming.
Yeah.
My prediction is that it will continue to just be talk and no one will actually show anything. But I would actually really, really love to see someone who's actually prototyped how these games would work in these virtual reality scenarios. Just because, in the work I do, thinking about user experience, we found... a lot of the things that virtual reality would rely on, like voice commands, gestural interfaces, they're actually very difficult for the user to learn and get in the way of actually enjoying the game. So I'm very curious to actually see someone actually make one of these games and show us how it would actually work.
I don't think you're going to be waiting too long to see this, because while we've been recording this, Oculus have had their sort of media event has been happening.
Right.
And they've announced that the Oculus is going to be shipping with an Xbox One controller and will be playable with Xbox One games.
Wow.
So that's fabulous.
Pretty big news.
Expect that
That's huge.
I'm expecting that Microsoft's E3 conference, you're probably going to see how they expect you to interface with VR.
That's pretty huge, actually. Yeah. So Sony's Morpheus has got its work cut out for it.
Yeah,
That's
basically
great.
what's happening is it's a partnership. It's a partnership with Windows 10. It's going to be supported in a load of Windows 10 games. But equally, they're it's also going to work for. I think they listed Sunset Overdrive, a couple of others, where it's you're gonna have VR in your Xbox One.
That's pretty impressive. Have you guys seen the new Oculus logo?
No, not the logo.
I haven't.
They just made a really, really nice rebranding of it. Go and check it out. It's super elegant. And the reason I know, this is just a little bit of a quick shameless plug, is because I'm writing a feature at the moment on the graphic designer who does it, and a whole bunch of other really, really amazing identity work. His name is Corey Schmitz. And
Awesome.
if you check out his website, you'll be amazed at just how many of your favorite games he's done the kind of logo design and identity and typefaces and stuff for. So really, really he sent me back some amazing interview answers actually just the other day. So looking forward to getting that typed up. Okay, final thing from me is we were going to start, Laura, a little new feature this week where basically our guest makes up an interview question, a pay it forward style, for our next guest, who I'm not going to tell you who it is. And I'm totally putting you on the spot. Can you come up with a cool interview question for our next guest to answer? It can be about anything you want, just about games, about the industry.
Okay.
Completely favorite food. Who knows?
I'm going to go career-wise, and I'm going to go with if there's one thing about your career that you could go back and change, what would it be with the hindsight that you have now?
That is a very good one, and I look forward to our guests answering it. My answer would be the whole thing.
Yeah.
Oh,
Never work in media.
I would say I would do nothing different because I am here today where I am now because of all the weird bad choices I made prior to this.
True, that's very true. Yeah, no regrets. No regrets.
Yeah.
You can learn something from every failure.
Yeah.
Well, on that highly inspirational note, Laura, thank you so much again for joining us. I know how busy you are, and it's been really, really good having you on the show. Do you want to just very quickly remind everyone what your Patreon is?
Yeah, I am patreon.com/Laura K Buzz. That's what pays the bills. I'm Laura K Buzz on pretty much everything, so that's where I am on Twitter and YouTube and anything else you want to find me on.
Amazing. So yeah, thank you again. I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, thanks so much. It was a great conversation.
Thank you very much for inviting me on. Sorry about our technical issues in the middle there.
No, it all
no
worked
problem.
out.
Nobody listening will have any idea what technical issues we had, such as the magic. But there you go. So it's just so that you know, we've struggled. You know, the struggle is real to bring you guys this podcast. So, and thank you all for listening. And
Danny, you haven't done your weekly shameless plug of Pliny.
that's true. You're absolutely right. Thank you very much for reminding me. He hasn't released anything in a while, but he's still the most handsome, philanthropic, amazing metal guitarist ever. His name is Pliny. He's Australian too, just like George Miller. There must be something in the water over there. I don't think I've ever said this, but yeah, he donated a whole bunch of his profits from the last EP he did to some like amazing charity. It's just I love him. Anyway, there you go. Thank you everybody once again. Bandcamp/Pliny. I'm not getting commission. And speak to you soon. Ciao.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Hooray!